welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Emily, and if you haven't joined me before, then you may not know that this is quite an exciting video. I am introducing you all to my daughter. Oh, pinch me moment. This is Elsie. Elsie is very much fast asleep right now. She was early, but that's why I am here today. I'm going to talk to you all about my birth story. So if you've looked back at the old videos, and you will see that we had a birth plan, which clearly Elsie did not like. Let's put this on. Oh, which clearly Elsie did not like at all. So we had a birth plan, and that birth plan came to an end completely probably about 2 weeks ago. So she's knockout. As you can tell, she's very small. She was born at 37 weeks and 2 days. So she was full term, but still probably had a bit of time to cook, as all the nurses and doctors were saying. So yeah, so my labour story, I'm not going to keep it from you guys any longer, and yeah, let's talk about how Elsie graced us with her presence 21 days early, and make sure that she's still okay. So where to begin? 2 weeks before I was induced, we had our midwife arrive at the house, and I was very excited because they were coming to look at the house to make sure that everything was okay for our home birth, because we were having a home water birth. So I had to tell them all about how the pool was coming from London, and the date that it was arriving and everything, and also it was a usual midwife check. So she basically took my blood pressure, we heard the baby's heartbeat, which was amazing because Alex hadn't heard Elsie's heartbeat for ages because of the current pandemic. And so that was lovely. And then it got to the end, and she was like, we were all so excited because I've studied hypnobirthing and things like that. I was so excited to incorporate it, and knowing that it would be all drug free, and it would just be the birth that I have always imagined if I was to give birth. And yeah, so it was just, yeah, pretty much the dream birth for myself personally. And she's making squeaky noises. And yeah, and then it got to the end, and my midwife was like, oh my goodness, how can I forget, can you do me a urine sample? And I was like, yeah, of course, no problem. So as usual, do the sample, and it had 3 counts of protein in it. And anyone who's been pregnant before, or if you haven't, that basically isn't very good. I was as well, which I mentioned to my midwife, suffering from headaches, and my vision was going a bit blurry with my glasses on, but I just literally thought they were just pregnancy symptoms. That's why I didn't really voice it. I've never been pregnant before. I didn't know anything to do with any other symptoms, like it could be related to anything. And my swelling was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I looked like Bigfoot. And if you look at like my previous videos, or if you follow me, you'll notice my face was really puffy and things, and it's slowly going down now post birth, which is, thank God, I'm never gonna have that puffy face again. And then yeah, so then she also mentioned that my blood pressure was a little bit higher than it should be too, which obviously was of a concern. So they rung the hospital there and then because they wanted to have blood tests to see if I was going to test as preeclampsia. I had every other symptom. So the hospital in our local town of Elgin said if you can do the blood test there, that would be great. So they did the blood tests here in my house, and then we had to wait 3 hours for the results. So that was like the longest 3 hours ever. Like, I was there like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So in the end, I ended up ringing them. I just wanted to know. And yeah, so it basically, they came back clear, the bloods, but I was anemic, which is really common in pregnancy, and which is absolutely fine. I was kind of expecting to be anemic because my mum is, so it was just one of them. I was expecting to be anemic at some point, because in my first trimester I was so tired, but I still, you know, still battled on through the pregnancy, feeling this tired again, just thought it was a symptom of pregnancy. But they were still really concerned. I had every other symptom. I had every other symptom. I did. If you guys can't see this, she obviously has wind, but she does a little cute pout. I had every other symptom of preeclampsia. So I obviously had the headaches, the vision, the protein, and the high blood pressure. So basically, worst case scenario of preeclampsia is that you have to be induced early, and you also can suffer from fits. So I was learning things every time I went to the hospital. So basically they wanted to monitor me, they wanted to check baby's growth. So on that Wednesday, so 2 days later, I ended up in hospital being monitored. They put me on the monitors, then I got a scan, and the blood was still coming back clear, like preeclampsia wasn't in my blood. However, the consultant in the local town wanted to push for induction, like being induced. He basically sat me down and he said, under no circumstances are you able to go ahead with your home birth, which is, anyone who knows me knows I'm a planner and knows that, and people will probably laugh and be like, well, you can't plan a birth and all this jazz, but I was low risk up until 35 weeks pregnant, so you just presume that everything's going to plan. I'd had a healthy pregnancy. I was so fortunate, so lucky, and I was working out still 5 days a week, literally up until the day before being induced. So it was like, it was such a shock. And when he said that, I did get a bit teary, because I'd planned so much within the house, and Alex was really excited, the midwives were really excited, and it was just such a shame that I essentially was going to be having a hospital birth, which I am a researcher also, wasn't something I'd researched into or looked into at all. I did not know what to expect at all when it came to a hospital birth, which probably sounds like I'm really naive, and everyone's like, well, how do you not know? I was really passionate about home birth, and I was really, really excited, so I didn't feel the need to have to look in further for a hospital birth. So he said to me that basically they're going to monitor me, but they want to induce me before 37 weeks. So I ended up in Aberdeen Hospital for a whole weekend being observed, and I was 36 and 1 when I went to Aberdeen, which was 2 days later, after being observed in Elgin, which is very stressful because Aberdeen from our house is about 2 hours. They didn't want to induce me because I wasn't full term, so I spent a whole weekend just being observed. They basically had a completely different attitude at this moment in time of my symptoms, and said that they're not even that big, and I could say up to 39 weeks. So I was so confused because 2 hospitals were saying 2 different things, which I get, people have different opinions. That being said, both of the care in both separate hospitals were absolutely amazing, and they were so attentive. As soon as I was known as high risk, midwives were amazing, consultants were amazing, doctors were amazing. Like, anyone I met on this bizarre 2 weeks were the most professional and most amazing people I had. on the Sunday. They basically said, you know, your blood pressure's gone slightly down, it's of a safe level. However, they were so confused in both hospitals as to why I was having the 3 pluses of protein in my urine. Let's not sugarcoat it. And I was still experiencing the headaches, and I was still experiencing the vision and things like that. I can't even describe the vision side of it, because obviously if I take my glasses off anyway it's fuzzy, but it was just like random fuzzy spots in my eyes, and they were like, yeah, that's part of preeclampsia. And it was just bizarre. I didn't feel sick, I didn't feel ill, nothing. It's like the most weirdest thing. And then it got to I had to go back to Elgin on the following Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? Yeah, the following Wednesday. And they did blood tests again, they monitored again, everything. And my symptoms had gotten slightly more intense, especially with the headaches and the vision. And the protein was still there, but the bloods were still clear, I was still anemic, etc, etc. And at this point I was 37 weeks. And then they said, well, we could book you in to be induced next week. And I was like, okay, I've got a week to plan, a week to do my hospital bag, a week to get everything that I need. And they were like, yep, that's fine. And the consultant was absolutely incredible in Elgin, and it was actually my midwife that pushed for to be induced, because she was really concerned that I've gone from being such low risk and being like this healthy person to essentially having something that could be potentially quite scary post-birth as well. And then they came back shortly later and they said, do you know what, why are we waiting to see if your symptoms get worse, when in actual fact we could induce you now, as you're 37 weeks and all will be okay and baby's full term. And I was like, I don't know. And they were like, okay, how do you feel about being booked in 2 days to have your baby then on Saturday? It was Wednesday. I literally was like, okay. I at this point in time, after like a week and a half of just to-ing and fro-ing from hospitals and things like this, I just thought to myself, I'm not going to say no anymore, because I can't have the birth that I want, and I don't want to dwell, and I just kind of wanted to get it done and over with and accept the fact that the birth that myself and Alex was so much looking forward to, and everybody else, we can't have. So we ended up being told that on the Friday I would be induced. And so I had to redo my hospital bag and everything. It was so bizarre, and I don't think I ever had time to sit down. She's actually just done the biggest trump ever on my lap. That's a girl, Elsie. Oh my god, that stinks.
It's like a dad.
Seems someone needed their bottom changing. So on the Friday we had to make our way to Aberdeen, but we did have to wait for a phone call for them to say that there was room for me to be induced. So that waiting game was like, oh, but then I got it quite early in the morning to be induced in the afternoon, to then go into labour on the Saturday. I didn't bother to do any research, I didn't bother to look into hospital births, nothing, because I thought to myself, if I don't like what I read, I'll panic more. So I went to Aberdeen. Obviously Alex wasn't even allowed into the section that I was going to. That in itself just puts so much anxiety into it, in the sense that, oh my god, I'm essentially on my own for the next 12 to 14 hours until he's allowed to come in when I'm in birth, like giving birth. It's a very weird time in the hospital, that goes without saying. Obviously it's for like the good of everybody, and the nurses and the midwives, they're just so supportive, but I will come on to that about our midwives shortly. But yeah, so I got induced with a balloon. I don't know the professional term, but they said the balloon to myself. Basically, it's not pleasant. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. A balloon's put up and filled with water, which softens your cervix. It doesn't break your waters, it doesn't do any of that at all, and you have that inside you for 12 hours. Now, I then got put into my own room, and nobody else was in there. It looked like it used to have beds in it. There was only one of the beds in it. And then yeah, so there's a video that I'm going to pop in just now for you guys to look at from when I was there. So enjoy the video, a little bit of a snippet of exactly how it was when I had that balloon inside me and that lower back pain. Oh my gosh, I was meant to be feeling contractions in my stomach, but for some reason I was feeling them in my lower back and the sides of my thighs. So I will let you guys have a look at that, and then we'll come back and have a look. I'm in the hospital. I've been induced. I have a balloon and I have to wait up to 12 hours for the balloon to leave and get to a certain centimetre. Not gonna lie, I'm on a balloon, by the way, it's not me making noises. It's sore, it's painful, and I'm just breathing through it, literally just breathing through it. There's nothing else you can do but breathe. Obviously, Alex isn't allowed to be here, so I'm completely on my own. No one else is on this ward with me, which in some respect is good. It's just, I'm positive in the mindset of this is great, I'm in the right hands, blah blah blah, and then on the flip side of my head I'm like, this isn't how I planned it at all. But yeah, I have to wait for the balloon to leave me, then wait for a slot in labour wards, and then Alex can come. Alex is 2 hours away, so they're not going to break my waters or anything like that until Alex is here, which is great. I've sprayed my lavender room spray, just so I can calm myself down. I'm having 2 tummy tightenings is what they've called it. I presume that's contraction. 2 tummy tightenings every few minutes, and they want it to be 4. I'm gonna see if I can get sleep, but I can't describe the pain. Like, it's the most bizarre pain. It's a balloon filled with water that's softening the cervix that is making me feel like this. It's just crazy. Who knew this could hurt so much? And she's kicking as well. Yeah. So, it's the 5th of June. It's just after 11 PM. I can't believe I'm actually here, about to go into labour. It's actually the most craziest thing ever. So as you can tell from that video, oh my goodness me, what I hate to admit when I'm in pain, or I hate to admit, like, I don't know, there's a bit of me that's like, it makes you look weak or something like that, but that was like not pain, it was more to do with the fact that it was just uncomfortable. I had 2.5 hours sleep, and I kept thinking in the back of my head, oh my god, it's the most important day of your life tomorrow and you are not sleeping. And yeah, and it was just, oh, it was ridiculous. And then at 6 AM in the morning, a midwife came. Her name was Gina. Honestly, the most loveliest girl ever. She just qualified as a midwife a 1.5 years, so her excitement was just everything I wanted and more. And she ended up taking the balloon out, and that sigh of relief, oh my god. Then she had to break my waters. That wasn't fun. And then because I was going to be giving birth early, they have to put in the oxy hormone. So the oxy hormone is the feel-good hormone when you're in labour, basically. And obviously because you're early, you haven't produced it fully, and they increased it every hour. So I started off on the lowest and then you end up on the highest of how much hormone you get into it. I did learn a lot when I was in labour, so that kind of like was a peace of mind. I at this point had already contacted Alex because we're 2 hours away from the hospital. He did it in an hour and a half, so I don't want to know how many red lights he jumped. And then I basically was in labour. I was 3 centimetres at 7 AM, so I was like, oh, I am on it. I was like, right, I'm gonna have this baby by 1 o'clock. I was just so delusional and like so ridiculous about it all. Anyway, we ended up, so from 6:30, which is when Alex arrived, from 6:30 till 1 PM, I essentially, Gina went home, the midwife. I got another midwife, Kay, who is literally the most wonderful lady ever. She's been a midwife for over 30 years, and honest to God, she studied hypnobirthing too, so we were like a match made in heaven. She was giving me massages, we were doing visualizations. She just made me feel incredible. But the downside of it all was the fact I was so exhausted, and Alex, I don't remember any of this, said that my eyes were rolling to the back of my head. I was in and out of like sleep, but it was to the point where they couldn't even wake me. I went really dehydrated even though I was drinking so much, so they had to put in a saltwater drip to go with, as well as the oxy hormone. And then it got to 1 o'clock and they they were like, right, let's see how many centimetres you are. You know, we've been going now for over 6 hours, let's see. I had had no gas and air or no pain relief at this point, because in my head, from my original birth plan, I was not having any drugs. That is just how it was. However, I didn't imagine ever that I was going to have preeclampsia, I was going to get induced, I would not have a water birth, and I would end up having 2 hours sleep the night before. So really, I didn't actually put that into consideration. I thought I was just this powerhouse that could do it without any drugs. And they basically said to me, you are 4 centimetres. 1 centimetre I had achieved in 6 hours. I told her to check again. I was like, please check again, because I genuinely feel a bit more. I was like, my finger's bloody 3 centimetres, hon. Like, seriously, just check a bit more. Like, I could not believe it. You couldn't write, sorry. Okay. And I was just so annoyed that I was doing all my breathing, I was doing everything correct with hypnobirthing, and then and then Alex, he said, seeing me in so much pain was actually heartbreaking. And he said, because like it was my lower back and my thighs, I'd go to sit down and then I'd be like, no, I need to stand up, I can't do it. Sat down, like I just can't do it lying on a bed, I can't do it. I like grabbed his t-shirt. I didn't ever scream or anything dramatic like that. I was just doing my breath, in for 4, out for 8. And I was like, if I keep doing that, I can just go through the pain. Anyway, it got to the point where Kay, my midwife, was like, look, I understand why you don't want pain relief, and I completely get it from studying hypnobirthing, but your birth is not how you planned, or a typical hypnobirthing, low risk, home water birth. Like, it's, you know, in 2 weeks you have discovered you have preeclampsia, you're anemic, you've been induced. And we just started kind of discussing options of how the pain, we can get the edge taken off the pain, but I can still feel everything. I wanted to feel every contraction. I wanted to feel Elsie being born. I wanted to still be able to feel it, but with the edge taken off. So she gave Alex a list, because again, I was out cold, and there was morphine, and there was, I can't pronounce the second one, began with a P, and basically that one you just don't remember anything, don't feel anything. And I wanted to be of a state of mind. And then the morphine was just a no-go. I didn't want anything to do with gas and air, because it makes you a bit so I didn't want anything to do with that, but that was just my personal preference. Then there was the option of an epidural. So usually with an epidural, yeah, you do go numb in some places. So I said to them, I don't want to go numb. Can you do it so that it's like half of one, so that it just takes off the edge? To which they said I was the most stubborn person they've ever met, which I agree, I probably am. And they agreed and said that's absolutely fine, it'll do to take off the edge. And how they, when you have the epidural, it's obviously between your spine and your vertebrae. I don't remember getting it because Alex said I actually like fell asleep when they were doing it. Didn't hurt, nothing like that. And Alex saw the size of the needle and then he went outside, so I think he needed a bit of fresh air. And then he came back and I was a completely different person. I felt full of life. The oxy hormone had definitely kicked in. I loved my labour. Like I loved it. From 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock was everything I imagined. We were spraying the room with lavender. We were doing our breath how we wanted to do it. We were doing visualizations. I got a massage. Like, it was incredible. The experience, it makes me want to cry with happiness every time I talk about my labour, because I didn't dwell on the fact that I couldn't have a water birth, and I didn't dwell that I wasn't at home. I had the most amazing midwife who was just, oh my god, and I know she'll never see this, but if she does, she was, okay, was just, she was everything you'd want in a midwife and possibly more. That woman is amazing. Ooh. And yeah, and then at 4 o'clock, are you alright? Are you still sleeping? Then at 4, you alright? She makes squeaky noises in her, yeah, don't worry Steph, she's okay. She makes squeaky noises when she's asleep. And then at 4 o'clock, yeah, you were so close to being born at 4 o'clock. Hey? And then at 4 o'clock, I was told I was 10 centimetres. I was, hun. Honestly, music to everyone's ears. And I was just so made up that we could start pushing soon, so that we could, I wasn't exhausted, I was raring to go. And the next video you see will be me in labour pushing away, and I pushed for about an hour and a half. Wait, no, I pushed for an hour and 15 minutes. That's what they said to me. An hour and 15 minutes I pushed it. Got to from 6 p.m. to 7:15. And yeah, so I'm gonna show you the beginning of when we started pushing at 6.
Send your body, put all that pressure, all that energy right down, push this baby down through the vagina. Down, down, down. Put breath in. Same again, twice as hard. And just push down. Really bear down, bear down, bear down, bear down. Fantastic. Same again. It's still powerful, so when we push again, quick breath in. Catch breath and push down. Push down, push down, push down, push down. Push that baby right down. Good. Breathe normal again. Okay. Great. Great. At some point I will have a look and go,
oh, there she is.
Or I'm having
I don't think I'll miss it.
Not the other.
Could be that. We'll see. We'll see.
Time, please.
Out of nowhere, like an hour had gone by, and out of nowhere all these really important people started coming in, like consultants, junior doctors, head midwives. Honest to God, I thought they were coming in because everyone had been coming in and out all afternoon saying my room was the most relaxing. So I thought maybe they just needed a breather. Like I didn't think anything else was gonna go wrong. I thought, right, things are going good now. And yeah, and then they were all so lovely. There was about 6 people in the room. I didn't once think negative and think, oh my god, something's wrong. I just genuinely thought they just wanted to sniff the lavender spray in the room. Anyway, I had a doctor come over to me and a consultant, and they said they weren't happy that the contractions were in clusters and then me having like a 10-minute break, and then clusters and me having a 10-minute break. So they looked into it further, and basically baby wasn't getting the oxygen that she needed, and that is obviously red alarm bells, like, oh my god, no, this can't be happening. And all I kept thinking was, please do not say C-section. And then I looked at Alex and I was like, am I okay? Is it me? Like, I just couldn't get my head around it. So they gave me 2 options. First option was they said, right, we can either do a blood test and be able to see if you can do it naturally. And I was like, right, well, that's the one I'm going to go for. And the blood test, it was something to do with insides, and they had to do it. Honestly, I just can't remember off the top of my head. And the second one was forceps, which I'd only ever heard nightmares about, and it's not pleasant. So I was like, let's do the blood test. And she was like, oh, okay. And I don't think she actually thought I'd say that. All of them went outside. They'd clearly just gone into the corridor, and then 2 minutes later they all came back in, and they said, look, we have to offer those options, that second option to you, but this could be a very, very different story in half an hour if we wait for those results, and that's why essentially we want you to do the forceps. So I pretty much couldn't have a second option because it could be such a danger to the baby. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I just felt myself cry. Why am I crying? So I was like, okay, because you don't want anything bad to happen to the baby, of course. And they said this was safe for me and baby. So next thing you know, I look over and Edward Bloody Scissorhands had walked in with like all these tools and everything. And I'm not gonna lie, when you look and see those giant metal tools, it is a bit scary, and you're like, this is happening, this is real, forceps gonna go up, and oh my god, what is gonna happen? At this point, Kay had left, and she was amazing, and Gina from the morning had come back, and we were going to be using forceps, and they said, you know, it could take a while, and I was like, okay, that's fine, I'm ready for it, let's go. And then I was told, right, when you get your next contraction, it's called downward breathing with the hypnobirth, and if you've studied it before, you'll know what I mean. And they said, right, do your downward breathing, but only 1 push, and then you have to pant. And I said, okay. I had midwife on one side, I had a student midwife over there, I had 4 doctors over there, consultant, and a junior doctor was doing the forceps. So there was so many people and so many things happening in one room. And Alex was right next to me holding my hand, and they were like, what, is that a contraction? And I said, yeah. And then I literally did my downward breathing, pushed. They must have done something with the forceps because I felt something, and then I started panting. But when I pushed, they went, baby's head out. And then I did 1 pant, and they were like, oh my gosh, stop, baby's here. So baby was here, and oh, it was such a sigh of relief, and it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. And we heard her cry, obviously, and it was just amazing. And we got baby straight away. We cried, me and Alex, and all of the doctors just kind of, you know, when people are like, oh, thank God, like that, as if something real bad they thought was going to happen. And I think that's why they had so many on standby. Like, I did not realise how bad it actually was until like after the birth, when all these doctors and everything were telling me like, oh my god, you did amazing, like most people would not be able to do that, which is really flattering. But to this day I still don't see the big deal of forceps, in the sense that it got me my baby and she's healthy. Then the next thing you know, baby was weighed, blah blah blah, and then they went, right, we need to take you to theatre. I was like, but I've had my baby, like, can I not go back to the ward now, say bye bye to husband, because he obviously had to go. And they went, no, you have a muscle tear, obviously down there. And I was like, brilliant, what does that mean? They were like, just a few stitches, no biggie kind of thing. But then we had to wait, and then yeah, and then I was like, right, okay, that's fine. And I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, don't get me wrong, it hurt down there, but I thought that was just normal again. And they were just so supportive, so we had to wait. Baby was born at 7:33 and I went into theatre at 11:30 at night because they had emergencies, and thank God I wasn't classed as an emergency. Went down to theatre. My operation, was it an operation? I don't even know. My stitches were only meant to take half an hour and they took an hour and a half because I was only meant to get 3 and I got 8. So it was classed as a 3rd degree tear. To which I told like the recovery and things like that, like, you're going to be in so much pain, blah blah blah. If I'm honest, I'm not in pain whatsoever. Like, I am managing it really well. I'm just taking each day as it comes. I always have that thought in my head that there is always someone worse off. So I have a tear, big deal, like, it's gonna heal, it's gonna be fine. But at present, if I feel a bit of a twinge or I feel a bit of a pain, then in my head I'm like, man up, you'll be fine. So frame of mind I have when it comes to things like that, there's always someone worse off. So obviously, because I'd had the tear, and also when I first fed Elsie, because I'm breastfeeding, and when I first fed Elsie, she actually turned purple, because it was nothing too serious. She guzzled it that hard that it changed her whole body colour basically, but she obviously had to be observed to check it didn't happen again. So we went up to a ward, and honest to God, I cannot describe to you how incredible the care was. NHS Scotland, honestly, myself and Alex have so much respect for midwives, doctors, consultants, everything, because the care was literally second to none. Like, I constantly just kept telling them how amazing they were, because, and in this current climate too, they kept saying, oh, it's so nice to hear that and things. They were just amazing, and they just kept saying to me, like, for someone who's was low risk, like really low risk, to then having like a 360 times 2 and then having to change, like, they kept saying to me, you've handled it really well. And I was like, well, it's just one of those things. And they were just so supportive. And obviously while we were in hospital and things like that, she got jaundice, but they had to monitor my blood pressure and take my bloods, and then she had to have light therapy. But basically I was in hospital, I think from Friday to the following Tuesday I was in hospital. I hated every second staying when it was just me and Elsie, and Alex couldn't see her. But essentially that is my birth story, and you know what, it is complete opposite to what I ever imagined. And you know, I am happy it was. I'm just, you know, it's worth it when you have this bundle of joy in your arms and something you've always dreamed of. So I didn't get a birth that I wanted, I didn't get the water birth, didn't get it at home, but I got the best care you could ever imagine from the most amazing midwives. I obviously did not want forceps, I obviously did not want an epidural, but those things happened, and my labour was so amazing because I was still able to do my hypnobirth and I was still able to do part of my plan. And my advice to anyone whose plan doesn't go to plan, if you're like me, is take it in your stride. As soon as something goes wrong, for example, like myself, and you're told, okay, you can't have a water birth, it's just going to be a normal hospital birth, don't do any research, go in there with an open mind. You are going to get the best care. These people are professionals and do it every day. And honestly, Alex and I are just so grateful. I've had no symptoms of preeclampsia post-birth. It's absolutely amazing. We've got Elsie, who's on the mend of jaundice. She's looking more and more pink each day instead of yellow. And we are just eternally grateful. So my advice is, embrace your labour. It's not that bad. Don't watch one born every minute and get scared, and enjoy it. Like, honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed my labour, and I think that is because of the most amazing midwives that you could ever meet were with me, and my amazing husband, who was just my rock the whole time. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about my labour, and please like and subscribe and all that, and follow me on Almost Grown Up, because this little lady is definitely photogenic, so you'll be seeing a few more photos of her soon.